A special bill that would force Uber drivers to display lidded signage and barcodes has passed in New Jersey. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and just to give you a bit of a heads up, this might be a little bit of a controversial one. I am going to reiterate an opinion that was very, very unpopular when I first talked about it. We're going to discuss it again. I will expect to lose a few subscribers in this discussion. So for those of you who end up leaving me, it was nice having you around. I wish you the best in your future endeavors. However, I feel fairly strongly about this. So anyway, let's look at this. Sami's Law. New Jersey Uber Lyft drivers must show signs, carry detailed ID cards. Now, you might be wondering what this is, but some of you might not know, or some of you might remember that this is in response to the story of a woman who called an Uber, a car pulled up, and she thought it was her Uber driver. She got in without verifying that it was her Uber driver and wound up, well, not well off. In fact, she is no longer with us. I'm sorry. I don't like to dance on the terminology. That's YouTube's little rules there. So that was an unfortunate story, and me and many other Uber tubers pointed out that the unfortunate thing about this is that you should check your information. Uber and Lyft give you plenty of information you need. And yeah, it's not like the driver's innocent. Obviously, the driver who did this horrible thing, and by the way, also had the child safety locks on and had nefarious purposes, yeah, clearly that guy's a scumbag, clearly deserves to go to jail and be in jail for the rest of his life. However, Uber and Lyft do give you the tools you need to double check to make sure that, the license plate number is the same, the make and model of the car is the same, that the picture that's on the app looks like the driver in the vehicle. You don't need the say my name movement, which is flawed on many levels, particularly since Uber scammers use the say my name thing all the time, where they yeah, if they want to scam someone out of an Uber ride, I'm just going to share this again. They look at the driver and they ask the driver, "What's my name?" And it doesn't matter what the name is. They get in the Uber and say, "Oh, you're my Uber." So yeah, that was a stupid thing. However, equally stupid was this law, although it appears that it has been tweaked a little bit to something that I think we can agree with. So, ride-sharing services like Uber and Lyft operating in New Jersey must start identifying vehicles with signs and require drivers to carry barcode ID cards under a new safety law prompted by the killing of a student who mistakenly got into the wrong car. On Thursday, Governor Phil Murphy signed what sponsors called Sami's Law, named for Samantha Josephson, a New Jersey woman studying at the University of South Carolina who was, I guess I've already said the word, killed after she got into a car she thought was her Uber. Nathaniel David Rowland was charged with Josephson's murder after an investigation found her phone and blood in the Impala he was driving. Surveillance footage showed Rowland pulling up to the Bird Dog Bar just after 2 a.m. and Josephson getting into the car. He used childproof locks to prevent her from escaping before he killed her. Quote, "No parent should have to experience the loss of a child, especially due to a lack of common sense safety measures for rideshare services," said Assemblyman Daniel Benson, Democrat Mercer, one of the bill's sponsors. I take a little issue with this because, again, there were some common sense safety measures. They gave you all the information with the car that you could easily check yourself. The video shows she clearly made no effort to confirm it was her Uber. A car pulled up and she just got in. And here's the thing, this turned into a very deadly mistake. And I think this happens a lot, in fact. People just get into cars and it's like, "Oh, you're my Uber." I've actually had to tell people, I'm not your Uber. In fact, because I still have the Uber stickers on my car, I pulled into a parking spot. As I was opening the door, someone opened the door and got in. I'm like, "What are you doing?" And they're like, "Aren't you our Uber?" It's like, "No, I'm not on." And then they got out. However, this was like a week ago, by the way. People just don't check, although the tools are given there. However, let's look at what the bill's actually requiring them to do. I hate ads. The new law requires ride-sharing companies such as Lyft and Uber to provide reflective or illuminated signs in the front and rear windows of the vehicle when the driver is logged into the company's digital network. If the signage is able to be lighted, it is required to be turned on during darkness and must be visible. Ride-sharing companies are also required to provide every driver with 2 copies of a barcode or machine-readable codes unique to that driver and vehicle. So here's where I stand. The first one, I pointed out before, it's pointless. You can buy this signage on eBay everywhere. Heck, the rideshare professor sells it. It's one of his little side ventures. I'm not saying he's a bad guy for doing that, by the way. I'm just saying he sells it so anyone can easily get it. The second one I agree with a lot more. Machine readable codes, that helps a lot. The code must be scanned to confirm the driver's identity and must be displayed on the driver's and passenger side rear windows while the driver is logged into the company's digital network. Credential place cards will be created by the New Jersey Motor Vehicles Commission and issued to drivers and will include the driver's first name, a high-resolution color photo of the driver, the vehicle's license plate number, and the state that issued the plate. Drivers must return the signs and identification cards to the ride-sharing company within 30 days after they stop working with the company. However, that's one of the things. When do you stop working for the company? You don't work for Uber or Lyft. You know what you do? You drive when you feel like it. That's the whole point of the independent contractor status. I mean, I guess you could say that if they haven't done anything in 30 days, then you have to return the signage. However, doesn't that seem to enforce the idea that you're not contractors, you're employees? In fact, the state is telling you what to do at this point. Drivers could face fines of $250 if the identifying markers are not displayed, and they can be locked out of the digital identification system if they fail to display the plate card or identifying markers at least 3 times. If Uber or Lyft or any other ride-sharing company does not issue any of the items or fails to stop a driver who did not display the proper items, the Motor Vehicle Commission will be forced to suspend or revoke the company's permit to operate in New Jersey. So very, very high stakes for Uber and Lyft to follow this. Although, here's the thing. I have to say, I could see Uber and Lyft leaving New Jersey over this. I mean, New Jersey is really not that big of a state when you get down to it. And a lot of it is trees, which is why I love New Jersey, because I like the trees everywhere. However, who knows? We'll see. A similar bill was introduced by Representative Chris Smith on Capitol Hill and has garnered bipartisan support. The South Carolina legislature passed the Samantha L. Josephson Rideshare Safety Act in May, making it illegal to pose as a rideshare driver and requiring license plate numbers to be on a sign in front of the vehicle, even though they're on the license plate. I don't know. This is definitely an example of, people doing things that sound like they're going to make a difference that really don't. Although I will say the codes make a big difference. Now, here's where we're going to get to the controversial part, because I don't disagree with making rideshare safer, particularly for women. In fact, there is this article over on Business Insider that was saying something that's been known for a long time. Female drivers for Uber and Lyft say sexual harassment is the norm and getting help from the companies isn't easy. We'll just look at the bullet points here. Female drivers for Uber and Lyft say lewd comments from passengers happen regularly. Speaking to The Guardian, many women said they feel the companies often aren't helpful in investigating incidents. In statements to Business Insider, both companies affirmed their commitments to safety and noted many of the offending riders reported by the paper have been kicked off the platforms. That is no help when you're going through it, by the way. So here's how it starts, and we won't read the whole thing. For female Uber and Lyft drivers, every fare is a possible nightmare. And when the unthinkable happens, many women say it's difficult to get the ride-hailing companies to hold up their side of the partnership. The Guardian on Wednesday reported that many female drivers have trouble getting in touch with Uber or Lyft after an incident. In one case, a woman said it took 5 days for someone from Lyft's critical response safety line to get in touch with her. Another said a passenger was arrested after she reported an assault that included hair pulling and spitting. Uber, meanwhile, sent only an automated email with no follow-up. So here's where we're going to get into the controversial part, because I'm going to bring something up again that definitely got me. A lot of people disagreed with me. And, it's fine. I encourage people to disagree with me. I think it's good to listen to both sides of the story, because I did a story where some advocacy groups were pushing for a feature in the Uber and Lyft apps, so for female drivers, that essentially said if they didn't want to pick up men, they didn't have to. And by the way, I support it. Now, I got a lot of pushback, even from some people who I consider to be friends. They pointed out this is illegal, that's discrimination, all that jazz. I'm going to respectfully disagree. Well, I'm not going to 100% disagree with you. Yes, it's obviously a little discriminatory for a woman to say, I will not pick up a man because I don't feel safe picking up men. And for that matter, it's probably also the same amount of discriminatory when a man says, I will not pick up a woman because I don't feel safe with a woman, or maybe he just doesn't like them. People then, of course, when you put something like this out there, people just go the most extreme. Like, you suggest this, and they're like, oh, well, what's next? Are you saying, There's going to be a feature where you can't pick up Jewish people if you don't want to, or you can't pick up African Americans, or you can't pick up homosexuals. When does the line stop? And look, it's not that I don't understand where you're coming from. Clearly, there are prejudiced people out there. And obviously, a feature like that, regardless of good intentions, could be abused if enough bad people complain like they want this and this. Here's where I'm a little different on the situation compared to other people. I fully believe in the independent contractor status. I believe that if you are an independent contractor, you choose to do business with whoever you do or do not want to do business with. And yes, some people might be a little racist, and yeah, they might be prejudiced or whatever reason. And it sucks that there are people like that out there. As an independent contractor, you should have the right to say no, whatever reason you want. And here's the thing, when we're talking about how women don't want to pick up men, we're saying this for a good reason. Men are typically stronger than women. They can be more abusive. It's clearly something that happens. And the thing is, we all know it happens. It happens all the time. And I'm not hearing any better suggestions. In fact, of all the problems we talk about on Uber and Lyft, mainly we talk about the pay raise. We also talk about the deactivations that nobody has any representation of. We are now talking about how Lyft, and someone, by the way, clarified for these, Lyft is arbitrarily capping drivers in New York City when they don't have to do that. They're just choosing to do that. And we talk about all these issues, and yet safety for women is something we almost never discuss. I talked about it one day, said I actually think that's a sensible solution, and a lot of people said it was not a sensible solution because it was this. Okay, but what else can we do? We need to talk about this. We need to talk about it because people like her are losing their lives. Granted, she made a very deadly mistake. However, what about all of these people? All the women in this story, they were just doing their job. And by the way, Katie has also been hit on by multiple guys, usually intoxicated. We need to do something to protect the women. And you know what? If that means incorporating a feature where the woman says, I only want to pick up another woman, I am perfectly okay with that, because I don't consider that discrimination. I am choosing that you are choosing not to do business with someone for whatever reason. And as an independent contractor, that is your right. Your employees don't tell you if you are an employee, your employees can tell you you have to serve everyone. If you're an independent contractor, you serve yourself, you serve whoever you want. Now, if there is a better solution, I would really like to hear that. I would be open to it. That's what the comments are for. The comments are there for you to give other suggestions. But when you call me an idiot and you say, hey, guess what? That's not what you're going to do. I'm like, hey, you know what? Stupid. You're not giving me a solution. I want these people to feel safe. I want them to feel like they can drive for Uber and Lyft and not fear for their lives. So what's the solution? I mean, look. The code, that's not a bad start. The signage won't do much, but the code actually will. What's the next step? What is it? I know a lot of you are really, really pissed when I agreed that would be a good thing to do. And you are probably still pissed that I still believe that. I think See Jane Go had some merit. Maybe not when I first started talking about it. However, after talking to people who have had these problems and having Katie experience herself, I've come to the conclusion that Uber and Lyft hate women. They do nothing for them. They know these problems exist, and they give terse public relations responses and then don't do anything. I would like for them to address this. I'd like for everyone to address this in a real serious manner. That was the only idea that made any sense. If you have a better one, I'd love to hear it. In the meantime, well, that's all I'm going to have to say about that. And I truly want to hear what you think. Do you have any solutions for this? Comment below. Like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, I'm not even going to do the spiel. I'm more interested in talking about this than promoting my other channels and stuff. So I would really seriously just like to know, what is the solution? And until next time, flame responsibly. Stay safe out there.